You know, that moment when someone's audacity is so staggering, you almost have to admire it just for the sheer nerve. Yeah, so there I was floating in my pool on a lazy Saturday afternoon, cold beer in hand, soaking up that hard-earned peace that only comes after a week from hell at work. Sun's out, water's perfect, and for a minute life is actually good. Then I hear it, the screech of what had to be $400 sneakers on my concrete in a voice that could curdle milk. Hey, old man, you need to get out now. I cracked one eye open just enough to see this kid, maybe 17, standing at the edge of my pool with his arms crossed, staring at me like I was some kind of overpaid pool boy who forgot his place. Head to toe designer gear, hair so perfect it looked illegal, and a smirk that said he'd never heard the word no in his life. This is HOA property, he announced like he was the king of the neighborhood. My mom runs this place, so unless you want problems, I suggest you leave. And right then, I almost laughed if this kid only knew who he was talking to. Let me back up a sec. Before I spill how this whole mess unraveled, do me a favor. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching, from what time it is over there, and if you love stories where entitled people finally get theirs, well, hit that subscribe. Trust me, you don't want to miss how this ends. 6 months ago, I moved into Willowbrook Estates. You know the kind of place, lawns trimmed to within an inch of their lives, streets so clean you could eat off them, and an HOA rule book thicker than the Bible. I'd just been elected sheriff in this county, needed to relocate, and on paper this neighborhood looked perfect. Quiet, safe, good property value. What I didn't know, I was moving into a full-blown dictatorship disguised as a homeowners association. On day 3, I met Karen Mitchell. She showed up with a basket of muffins and a smile that never quite touched her eyes. You know the type, she wore authority, like it was Tiffany jewelry? Blonde highlights that cost more than my last vacation, yoga pants that probably required a down payment, and an expression like she was always on the hunt for someone to correct. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she sang, all sugary sweet. "I'm Karen, the HOA president. Just wanted to make sure you got your welcome packet with all the community guidelines." "Oh, I gotten it all 47 pages. I noticed your moving truck blocked the Hendersons' driveway for about 20 minutes yesterday," she said, that smile, not budging. "Just a friendly reminder, we have strict parking regulations. I'd hate for you to get a citation your first week, a citation for moving in." "Duly noted," I said, keeping it neutral. "Years in law enforcement teach you to read people." Karen was coming in loud and clear. Control freak, power hungry, had to be top dog. What I didn't tell her or anyone was my actual job. I'd learned that dropping the sheriff title changed the way people acted. I just told folks I did public service county work, which wasn't a lie, just not the whole story. That would turn out to be both my biggest mistake and later my secret weapon. Karen's son, Brandon, I met a week later. Kid drove a BMW his parents handed him for pulling a C+ in high school. He honestly thought rules were for other people. First time I encountered him, his music was shaking my windows at 2 in the morning. I went over, knocked politely, asked him to turn it down. Brandon looked me up and down like I was something he'd step around on the sidewalk. "Dude, it's not even that late," he said, making zero effort. "Besides, my mom's the HOA president. We do whatever we want." And man, I'd hear that line a lot. The Mitchell family had weaponized the HOA as their own personal hit squad. Karen had been president 3 years, stacked the board with her loyalists. And every meeting was a little theater where she decided who was in compliance based on whether she liked you that day. Mrs. Patterson, sweet lady, lived 3 doors down, got fined $200 because her garden gnomes violated Section 14.3 of the bylaws. Gnomes that had been there since Bush Sr. was president. When she protested, Karen threatened daily inspections till she found something worse. Johnson's, nice couple, new baby sighted because their old Honda was unsightly and 3 inches over the parking line. $500 fine. Meanwhile, Brandon parked his BMW across 2 spaces, threw parties, borrowed and broke Mr. Chen's lawnmower, then denied it. If you dared complain, Karen would descend in her yoga pants like a dragon with a clipboard screaming harassment and threatening lawsuits. People were terrified. Conversation stopped when Karen walked by. Neighbors would repaint houses in approved colors, remove basketball hoops, pull down Christmas lights on January 2nd, all just to avoid her wrath. Me, I tried to lay low, but I noticed things, how exhausted people looked, how nervous they got whenever a new HOA letter landed in the mailbox. Folks here had surrendered to tyranny. Brandon hated that I wasn't scared of him or his mom. He'd rev his engine at dawn, let his friends block my driveway, leave beer cans in my yard after parties. I stayed polite, documented everything, never once told them my real job. That patience would pay off. By month 6, I'd had enough. The Mitchells weren't just annoying, they were running a full-blown protection racket. Comply or face endless harassment and fines. Let Brandon do as he pleased or Karen would make your life hell. What they didn't know, I'd been collecting evidence, photos, videos, statements from neighbors too scared to go public. I was building a case. Then came that Saturday. Brandon strutting up to my pool telling me to get out. That's when I knew no more playing quiet. Still floating, still calm, I looked up at him. "I'm not leaving," I said. "This is my property, my pool, my house." His smirk slipped just for a second. "No, it's not. This whole section is HOA community property." My mom showed me the maps. I laughed for real. "Son, I don't know what maps your mom showed you, but I've got the deed that says otherwise. This is private property. You're trespassing." He flushed. "You're lying. Your mom's wrong." Now he's on his phone frantically texting. "You're done. My mom is gonna destroy you." "I'll wait," I said, settling back in the water. Karen was there in 5 minutes like she'd been hovering nearby. She stormed through my gate, face already set to maximum outrage. "What's going on?" she demanded at me, not Brandon. "Your son trespassed on my property and told me to leave my own pool. I've asked you both to leave." She pulled out her phone, scrolling through some map. "According to the HOA, this is community space. You're trespassing." "Karen, you know that's not true. I have the deed, the permits, the survey. This is private property. Always has been. I don't care what fake documents you have. The HOA owns this land." She thrust her phone at me, some map clearly drawn up in Microsoft Paint, lot numbers all wrong. "That's not a legal document," I said. "It's an official HOA record," she declared, voice shaking with that same self-righteousness that's cowed a whole neighborhood for years. Neighbors started to appear, curtains twitching, doors cracking open. Karen ramped up. "The fines will be substantial. Thousands of dollars plus. I'll be recommending legal action to have you removed from the community for using my own pool." I was so done. I climbed out, towel in hand. "Karen, last chance. Take your son and leave my property. Now." She actually laughed. "Or what you'll call the police." "Please do. I'd love to explain how you're threatening HOA leadership." "I'm not threatening anyone. I'm asking you to leave." "We're not going anywhere." Brandon chimed in, still filming. "Karen announced I'm calling an emergency HOA board meeting for Monday night. We'll decide your fate. Oh, and that truck you park in your driveway, I'm having it towed tomorrow." They left and my neighbors scattered like cockroaches when the lights come on. But my phone, still recording, had caught it all. That night, Mrs. Patterson knocked on my door, casserole dish, trembling in her hands. "I saw what happened," she whispered. "May I come in?" For 2 hours, she unloaded 3 years of Karen's reign of terror fines for mailbox color, doormat size, porch lights, thousands in penalties. She'd had to skip medication just to pay. "I thought about moving," she said, crying, "but this is my home. Why should I be driven out?" "You shouldn't," I said. "But what can we do?" "She controls everything. The board just obeys." I promised her not for long. The next day, Tom Johnson caught me outside glancing around like Karen might pop out of the bushes. "Be careful," he said. "Mitchells are vindictive. When we moved in, our car got keyed 3 times until we paid a fine to Karen." "That's extortion," I said. Tom just shrugged. What else could he do? Others started sharing too in hushed voices. The Chens, the Rodriguezes, Marcus Webb, Everyone had a story. The pattern was clear: intimidation, harassment, silence. Brandon escalated that week. Trash dumped on my lawn, my tires slashed my security camera, catching his BMW at 3 a.m. My yard trashed my grill in the pool, and Mrs. Patterson watched it all, too terrified to call the cops. Something snapped in me, not in anger, but in cold clarity. These people needed someone who couldn't be threatened. Mrs. Patterson, how would you feel about testifying? She looked at me like I was crazy. Karen can't touch you now, I promise. Saturday, I filed official reports with my own office, not the HOA. Vandalism, harassment, property destruction. I called in the county attorney, the state regulatory board, and a few colleagues who eat HOA abuse for breakfast. By Sunday night, the trap was set. Karen had called an emergency HOA meeting to crucify me, no idea she was setting her own trial. Monday, the community center was packed. Karen sat at the head table dressed for war. Brandon in the front row, phone out. Karen started her show, projected my house, my truck, called me a dangerous rebel. This man has shown nothing but contempt for our rules, she said. He's been illegally occupying common property, threatening my minor son, and harassing community leadership. Brandon did his traumatized victim act. Karen called for $15,000 in fines and my removal from the neighborhood. Finally, she asked, "Does the accused have anything to say?" Oh, I did. I walked to the front, folder in hand. Let's address the property issue first. Here's my deed county registered official seal. Here's the survey, the plot map, a letter from the zoning office. My house and pool are private property. Always have been. Karen sputtered. Those could be forged. They're public records anyone can check. Next, harassment. Here are my phone logs. One call to Brandon politely asking him to stop honking his horn. Want to hear the recording? One-party consent's legal in this state. Karen went pale. Then the security footage, Brandon's BMW, 20 teenagers trashing my pool, vandalizing my property. Clear as day. Karen tried to object, taken out of context, but I offered to play all 6 hours of footage. Suddenly, neighbors started speaking up. Mrs. Patterson about her gnomes, the Johnsons about their car, Marcus about his fence, the Rodriguezes about their daughter. One by one, people stood up, years of fear turning to courage. Then I dropped the real bomb. I reached in my pocket and flashed my badge. I'm Sheriff Michael Reeves, elected sheriff of this county. And Karen, you and your son are in a lot of trouble. The room exploded. Karen's face went white. Brandon dropped his phone board. Members looked ready to faint. I explained 6 months of documentation, warrants for financial records, evidence of embezzlement, fraud, abuse of power. Karen tried to play the victim, threatening lawsuits, but it was over. The board unanimously voted her out on the spot. Deputies walked Brandon out in cuffs, assault, vandalism, trespass, contributing to delinquency. Karen screamed, but nobody listened. The dam had finally broken. People told their stories, decades of fear dissolving in minutes. Mrs. Patterson's gnomes came back, the Johnsons parked wherever they wanted, the Chins mowed their own lawn. The HOA became an actual community board, real transparency, real elections. In court, Brandon was sentenced to probation, community service, full restitution, over $12,000 in damages, and mandatory counseling. Karen audited, sued by half the neighborhood, exposed as a fraud. Turns out David Rodriguez, one of her victims, was a civil rights attorney, and he led the class action suit that finished her off. Weeks later, I saw Brandon picking up trash in a safety vest. He shuffled over, eyes down. Sheriff Reeves, I'm sorry. For everything. You sorry you got caught or sorry you did it? I asked. He thought about it. Both. But mostly sorry I did it. I never saw it as bullying till now. Well, that's what it was, I said. But you've got time to change. And that's what matters, right? Willowbrook Estates turned into a real neighborhood again. Pool days, backyard barbecues, neighbors helping neighbors. People stopped looking over their shoulders. The video Brandon tried to weaponize went viral, but not how he hoped the internet saw through the act. This is what's wrong with HOAs, people wrote. Thank God for that sheriff. Here's the thing, bullies only win when people stay silent. Karen and Brandon ruled because nobody fought back. But the second folks found their voice, her empire collapsed. You don't need a badge to stand up for what's right. You just need courage to document abuse, to speak up, to stand with others. Change happens not because one hero rides in, but because ordinary people say enough. So drop a comment ever tangled with an HOA tyrant or someone who abused their power. How'd you handle it? And if this story gave you hope that justice still happens, hit that subscribe button. Karma doesn't always run on schedule, but when it shows up, man, it is beautiful to watch.